From Bikaner to the BSE, this has been a billion-dollar saga that's both namkeen and chatpata. But at its base, the secret spice has been as basic as the DNA of the Agarwal family and that of patriarch Haldiram Gangabishan Agarwal.
Late 80s and early 90s, there were lot many Haldirams. So there were some confusions among the territories and among the brand. So everyone has decided to be restricted with some territories and some geographical restrictions. And as my father was a visionary and he never wanted to settle for a specific state or for a specific area, that's how he withdrew the brand Haldiram and he introduced his own brand Bikaji.
Deepak Agarwal is the managing director of Bikaji Foods that got listed a fortnight back. A second-gen entrepreneur, son of founder Shiv Ratan Agarwal, who branched out in 1993 to start an independent ethnic snacks brand that is rooted in his hometown in Rajasthan.
Can I have some Bhujia? Thank you.
BYOB. Bring your own Bhujia.
I'm a G, loves Bikaji, loves Bikaji.
Bikaji Foods IPO will hit the street this week on November 3rd. The IPO is a complete offer for sale and certain promoters will be offloading their shares right there. The IPO price band has been fixed between 285 to 300 rupees per share. Also, through this issue, the company looks to mop up a total of over 880 crores at the higher end of the price band. Now,
If Pratap Snacks added the crunch by listing at a 33% premium to its issue price 5 years back, then Bikaji Foods further added bite to the story with its stock listing 8% higher to its IPO price. These ethnic snack brands have clearly shown they are recession-proof, enjoy mouth-watering valuations, and remain the constant envy of multinational giants. The Bhujia billionaires, primarily from Rajasthan, have spawned several regional players to rise up and take the fight straight to deep-pocketed rivals like PepsiCo, ITC, or a Kellogg that recently decided to split into three. The jury is still out on whether Indians are indeed trading taste for health.
So traditionally, these snacks have been very high on salt, sugar, fat. And most of the consumers don't have it because they are healthy, they have it because of the taste, right? I think it'll be incorrect to say that India is a healthy snacking market. The way I would put it is that health gets consumed by very select people, and that's only in metros. As soon as you go to a typical joint family household, right, you will rarely find consumption of a processed health food snack pack. Then it's essentially the likes of, the Haldirams or the Bikaji, etc.
That's Navroz Mahudawala, founder Candle Partners, a Mumbai-based deal advisory firm that specializes in consumer, chemicals, and the pharma space. Joining Navroz will also be Deepak, whom you heard first, giving us a first-hand account of Bikaji Foods. And Sachin Bhartiya, partner at Lighthouse Funds and investor in Bikaji Foods since 2014 and on the company board as nominee director.
See, we invested into this company in 2014. This was the first tranche of private equity that the company took. And for any company which actually, gets into this, eventually their dream will be to do a listing, provide an exit route to the investors, and eventually also unlock value for the company. And this has been no different.
The business models of ethnic snacks are, in fact, pretty much similar to FMCG companies, high on capital efficiency and brand pull. More importantly, many of these family-owned businesses have been among India's biggest wealth creators. It's Tuesday, November 29th. I'm your host, Ratna Bhushan from the Economic Times, and you're listening to From Bikaner to BSE, snacking away on the morning brief. In this episode, we will crack, crunch, and chip into the tikha dynamics that work in favor of a Balaji, a Haldiram, a Pratap, or even a Bikaji and a Yellow Diamond, and see if these family businesses can sustain intense competition, raw material inflation, and the regulatory scrutiny on high levels of salt and sugar on packaged foods. But first, let us go back to the arid desert of Rajasthan, where mithai and namkeen are a way of life. Here's Deepak Agarwal, promoter and managing director at Bikaji Foods, pretty much steering the show at the company and instrumental in managing its expansion. Deepak, your company has been making a lot of news in the past few weeks with the listing, etc. So, to begin with, Bikaji's revenue trajectory has been strong and consistent. Can you sustain this?
In last 4 to 5 years, if you see, then our growth rate is always on the consistent basis. So we are expecting the same for next 3 to 4 years, as the market is very large and the kind of a basket what we have in product mix is a huge one, and we have opened many other manufacturing units at different places. So hopefully we will able to continue the same CAGR growth rates.
Okay, what gives you this confidence, if I may just add to that?
This company is actually a ethnic based savories companies, and Bikaner city is very well known for Indian savories, Bhujia, papad and sweets. So this makes us unique, and the experience and the legacy what we have from the last 40, 50 years is make us different from other competitors.
Okay, interesting point you've raised there, Deepak, that this makes you different from competitors. Which brings me to my next question. The lineage still traces back to the founder of Haldiram, Ganga Bishan Agarwal. Can you tell us how the family tree has evolved and how you set up the business independently?
Here, I would like to mention that Haldiramji was my real great grandfather who started this business in 1940s. And from a small shop, he started selling the bhujia and he manufactured himself. And by his handmade bhujia, he has become very famous. So after independence, there is a lot of migration happened from Rajasthan, especially in Marwadi culture, to Northeast, Calcutta, Madras, and some other parts of the country. So two of my cousin grandfather also shifted to Calcutta in early 60s. And in 70s, my father generation has come. So my father are four real brothers. And one of my elder uncle has shifted to Nagpur in early 70s, like 73, 74, and which is called today Haldiram's Nagpur. And second is my father, and two of my younger uncle has shifted to Delhi in 1983-84, which is called today Haldiram's Delhi. So my father are four brothers, and this is a third generation, and we all are fourth generation. And Delhi, Nagpur, and Bikaner are real sister concern companies. But late 80s and early 90s, there were lot many Haldirams like Haldiram Delhi, Nagpur, Bikaner. In Calcutta itself, there were three Haldirams like Haldiram Prabhuji, Haldiram and Sons. So there were some confusions among the territories and among the brand. So everyone has decided to be restricted with some territories and some geographical restrictions. And as my father was a visionary and he never wanted to settle for a specific state or for a specific area, that's how he withdrew the brand Haldiram and he introduced his own brand Bikaji. Why Bikaji? Because Rao Bika was a king of a Jodhpur who founded this Bikaner. And Bikaner city is very famous for manufacturing Indian savories, bhujia, and papad and sweets. And you must have seen in every city or in every village, whether it is tier 3 or tier 2 1, you will find somewhere Bikaner sweet store, Bikaner namkeen store, Bikaner mistan bhandar.
That's very, very interesting. And the point you made, Deepak, that your father broke out and sort of started his own brand. Today, do you see Haldiram as a competitor?
Yes, they are the competitors. It's a big time competition between us. But as in, we always see it as a healthy competition, and we always see our own growth and our own style of, selling and manufacturing.
Okay, I want to ask you, have you been approached by other corporate houses, multinationals, or private equity firms for a buyout or, for selling off of any stake? So, have you been wooed by any of these and did you consider it?
Before IPO, we really got a good offers from the private equity companies for the secondary sales. But after post IPO, we are not seeing any offers. And this is the first kind of a company in ethnic snacks IPO. And so it's a unique brand and unique category. So everyone is very excited and we are glad that we got a really good response.
Okay. About 3 years ago, you took on a very aggressive branding and brand ambassador strategy, which was new for Bikaji as well as for anybody in the snacks business. You brought in Amitabh Bachchan, no less. Do you see that part of the business expanding? What has getting someone like Mr. Bachchan got to the table for the brand? And are there more stars in the pipeline?
It is very important point which even I didn't mention, but in 2019 we endorsed Amitabh Bachchan ji as our brand ambassador, and after his endorsement we really got a good feedback and offtake from the consumer side, but especially the confidence among the channel partners and the distributors. Nowadays the distributor says इनका तो ad आता है तो इनका माल बिक जाएगा. So this kind of a confidence comes from different channel partners and from a different market. So our other than our core market, in focus market, we will definitely get leverage and advantage of his branding and Amitabh ji as a brand ambassador, and to cover and to compete our competitors, and in to put our products on the shelves. It would really support us in a big way.
Okay. Deepak, snacks is a 1.5 lakh crore market of which only 55% is organized. So, do you see this as an opportunity or a challenge?
Ratna, here I just want to mention about the sweet market, that the organized market is only 10%. Balance all is unorganized. I give you example of chocolates. 40, 50 years back, in the chocolate it which was unorganized and only freshly on the counters, not on the package. But in last 40 years, all the chocolate has become into packaging. The same will happen in India for the next decade, for almost next 2 decades, and you will find that the sweets will be available only the packaged ones, and it will become unorganized to organized very rapidly in next 2 decades. So sweet market is a huge, and snacks market also, it's growing every year by 15%. So with the 15% market growth rate, you can imagine that how the market is growing. So it's a good opportunity, and we are also looking positive.
All right. But is this also a reason why it's rare to have large national players for ethnic snacks, unlike other categories like beverages or staples? What do you have to say about that?
Like there's a lot of large snacks player, and upcoming is also large snacks like ITC and 2M has also come into the Indian ethnic market, and market is growing, and I'm very positive in all kind of aspects.
Deepak, are you also looking at moving towards diet snacks because that's what's catching on? Now, we even have regulations from the FSSAI talking about warning labels on all foods about high salt, sugar, and fat. Is all of that going to be a pressure point for the business?
Nowadays we also have a roasted namkeen. We also introduced and launched some of the diet based snacks and roasted namkeen. We have a jawar mix, we have a multigrain bhujia, we have a bajra mix, we have a multigrain puffs. We also trying to reducing the salt and sweet percentage as per the FSSI norms, and we are on the same line as per the consumer demand, as per the consumer behavior, and in upcoming time, maybe after 5 years, 10 years, we will also make changes accordingly to the market, and we are on healthy snacks also. On the practically side, still the Indian market is not yet accepted very well about the roasted namkeen. It is a very niche market, but we are positive, and we also have the same ranges and introduced, and we are ready to change ourselves in next 5 to 10 years as per the market behave.
Okay, all right. And are you looking to tap global markets too?
Yes, we do exports also, and here I want to mention that we have entering into a frozen food, and we are almost covered 30 to 35 countries worldwide, and we are exporting around 4 to 5% of our total sales, and we are looking for doubling the exports in next 3 years. In frozen, we are introducing the categories like sweets, snacks, curries, and breads. But our core focus would be mostly on the sweets and our snacks.
Okay. And my final question to you, Deepak, is are you looking at any further joint ventures, any tie ups, any smaller acquisitions in the market now?
Ratna, yes, definitely. We would now we are open and we would like to do some ventures and some acquisitions if the better opportunity comes. But will always be more of strategic, whether it is on the product side or process or on the sales distribution side. So we are open and now we will look for some of the markets for acquisitions or for joint ventures.
Okay, and these acquisitions would be like regional brands in sweets and snacks in the ethnic space itself?
Ratna, here I just want to mention that now this brand is called as an ethnic snacks, but in next 3 to 4 years or 5 years, my vision is to call as a food brand. And in food brand, all kind of a food comes under one umbrella. So I'm looking for a good opportunities, but first and foremost priority is on the regional brands, acquisition or ventures.
A personal question to you, Deepak. What is your favorite snack?
My favorite is still the bhujia. Since childhood we are eating the bhujia and papad. So these two are my favorite, and definitely other snacks, but these two are my favorites.
The story goes that in 2012-13, then PepsiCo global chief Indra Nooyi visited Balaji Wafers offices in Gujarat for a lesson on two on how to run her snack foods business. She apparently even wooed Haldiram's for a buyout, but failed. So did Kellogg's as recently as 2019, but failed again. Now, Mukesh Ambani wants to chomp away at this space too. Navroz has been watching several of these developments keenly for many years, first in EY, where he worked, and then at Candle, his own firm. Navroz, to begin with, Pratap Snacks, the first ethnic snacks company to list. Bikaji Foods is the latest. Both had a good listing. How have they fared since listing?
So Pratap Snacks was listed in, if I remember correctly, September 2017. It's been 5 years since then. And the IPO price was around 940, 950. It did track well, I guess, for a year or two. But since then, it's actually never reached the IPO price and it's been consistently under the IPO price. So Pratap Snacks has had its share of challenges, and probably a lot got to do with the fact that, I guess, overall the snacks market has seen a share of challenges in terms of growth. However, I guess what we have seen is an awesome debut in terms of Bikaji, and it's kind of trading almost 33% over its IPO price. And probably it's the scale here matters also, because both DFM and Pratap, when they listed, probably they were slightly subscale. Bikaji is coming at a revenue level which is much larger than what these guys when they were listed, right? So that I guess is also making some level of difference.
Okay, interesting. Are both these companies very richly valued and deservedly so?
Consumer, Ratna, as you're very well aware, in India anyway gets rich valuations, and especially if you are a relatively smaller cap, and I say smaller caps being defined as anything less than $1 billion market cap, right? Because of just the liquidity around, or a lack of liquidity, most of these scripts generally track on the higher side. So yes, DFM and Pratap consistently were in the range of, upwards of 50 times P. I guess today Pratap is at even higher levels because the earnings are on the lower side. And of course, Bikaji is upwards of 100 P and, even more now after it's run up by 30-35%. Well, deservedly so or not, I guess that time will tell. Markets generally want a certain level of growth before they want either a re-rating to happen. So we would have to just wait and watch as far as some of the growth challenges are concerned.
Wait and watch? Yes, of course. But tell me, Navroz, institutional investors and PE funds have traditionally walked away at the idea of betting on these companies. Why is it so?
Probably, I guess there are several reasons behind this. One is the fact that, many of these have been very small family managed businesses earlier, right? And they were never structured as a corporate. So you had structural issues. It's always tough. There must have been, I think, in the earlier years, some level of accounting challenges also, because probably these were not as per the standards which most PEs expect. Also, probably one aspect that we all need to recognize is that for a PE, it's important that his exit is very clearly laid out. His thought process needs to completely align with the promoters on this. And many of them do expect a strategic exit at, on I guess today a lot of Indian entrepreneurs may not have, or at least most of these family managed businesses may not be very open to giving a strategic exit after 5 years or 7 years, right? So the only option for a PE then is either look at an IPO or look at another financial sale, which probably sometimes is subpar. So a mix of these challenges could have been, I guess, one of the issue here.
Okay, but what about deeper issues around governance and systems and processes? Is that also it?
Ratna, again, here, I would think this is very typical for any relatively smaller business in India. It's not just Indian snack business, right? And any sector where you probably can purchase in cash and you can sell in cash, right? Would always have governance issues. So you have several examples in India. I think the edible oil sector suffers from that. Some of the textile areas suffer from that, right? But there is a case here that the purchases also could probably sizable amount, because of which there are leakages in the system. This is one sector where anyway there are too many smaller regional players, extreme fragmentation, and thanks to that, there could be governance issues. So it could be one of the issues, but typically what we've seen is in sectors like this, as long as there is growth and the ability to structure it, a lot of financial investors are open to looking at it. I guess time will tell whether more deals could happen in this sector or not.
Absolutely, time will tell. But Navroz, India is also supposed to be snacking healthy, right? These bhujias are anything but healthy. So what do you have to say about that?
Traditionally, and I think we should, instead of taking judgmental calls, let's lay it out correctly. So traditionally, these snacks have been very high on salt, sugar, fat, and most of the consumers don't have it because they are healthy. They have it because of the taste, right? I think it'll be incorrect to say that India is a healthy snacking market. In fact, except in metros, you haven't seen that many business plans emerge where health has really done so well. Health foods have probably made some inroads in metros. However, our experience consistently seems to suggest that the Indian consumer wants taste even in healthy foods and may pay some premium. However, they ideally want similar price points for health. So that's very clear. So unless some of the Indian health food guys end up probably scaling up to a level where the price points are similar, it is extremely unlikely that you're going to see some major companies emerge. It's still very early days on the health food side. Most businesses are, kind of sub 100 crores. In fact, most of them are sub 50 crores, right? And at price points, which still probably is very, very metro and, I would say, very select consumers can really afford to kind of consume some of these products on a consistent basis.
Interesting, Navroz. At this point, maybe it's safe to say that Indians are talking health, but not necessarily walking health all that much, right?
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. It's still a phenomenon, which is the way I would put it is that health gets consumed by very select people, and that's only in kind of probably if you see the snacking, it's more in offices or where a single bachelor stays, stuff like that. As soon as you go to a typical joint family household, right, you will rarely find consumption of a processed health food snack pack. Then it's essentially the likes of, the Haldirams or the Bikaji, etc. So the penetration level, we are still talking of very, very low numbers here.
Okay. And finally, Navroz, do you see industry consolidation happening? Haldiram was in talks with Kellogg's. Lay's and ITC have been on the lookout for potential targets. There's a lot of activity in the M&A space in the snacking industry. What's your take?
Ratna, actually, our take here would be that probably there has been some initial consolidation in the last 4-5 years, right? So we saw Pratap buying then Awadh Snacks in, I think it was 17 or 18. And then we had a control deal even in DFM Foods because Advent is a controlling shareholder there. So in that sense, it was a buyout. Then probably RPG Group has done one transaction, which was their Evita brand. But other than that, it's been relatively limited. And our sense is that it will be difficult to execute a larger transaction because just of the fact that in the listed space today, the comparables are so, I'm not sure whether anybody in the private space will pay up to that level in terms of valuation multiple. So valuation in any sector like this would continue to be a challenge. Probably the maximum consolidation that we will see, and it will happen, is the players in that 50, 100 crore category where there could be some local entrepreneur which would have built a 50, 100 crore business which would be tempted to monetize. But there's enough growth available. So Our sense is that probably a lot of the guys may not be tempted to sell right now till we reach a certain scale.
So far, there's data to suggest that Indians are talking health, not walking health, with sugar-free variants or diet namkeens still contributing to less than 10% of most food companies' portfolios. Is this what gives an investor an uncontrollable urge to indulge as well? Let's ask Sachin of Lighthouse. Sachin, as you know, we're going to talk about the ethnic snacks category, which is very much the flavor of the season. What with the Bikaji IPO and so on. So, my first question is what kind of valuations do you expect for the ethnic snacks category?
See, ethnic snacks industry, if you look at in terms of nature of the business, it is pretty much like any FMCG company with a very high capital efficiency, hardly any working capital. Most of these businesses actually sell on cash, or even on advance basis. So if you look at in terms of the comparison, we would probably peg it. However, we think that this is pretty much part of the FMCG basket, and somewhere this will find a valuation range that will fit most of the other listed companies in the same sector.
Okay, so you don't see hiring top talent as a challenge either?
Yes and no. It depends entirely on the management. We have seen many companies, very, very good businesses still run by the family members, and there's nothing wrong about it. When I spoke about firm moving towards an organization, it is all about hiring the right talent. And we have seen now a lot of family businesses hiring people, we call it Crorepati Club, where you have people, getting hired at crore plus salary at CXO levels. And I think they are really helping these businesses move to the next level. And when I talk about family owned and professionally run business, it is not about just hiring people. It is about having right kind of an auditor, right kind of board, overall organization behind the business.
Okay, very interesting. Sachin, you said that, they are looking to hire talent, which is taking the businesses to the next level. So my question to you is, can these ethnic snacks providers compete against the more organized Western snacks market, which has many deep pocketed competitors? Like there's a PepsiCo, there's a ITC, there's a Parle. Some of them have, large back-end linkages. Like ITC, PepsiCo has global backing. So what do you have to say about that?
Western snacks and ethnic snacks are two very different business, though they appear to be same, but dramatically different in terms of making, in terms of processing, in terms of ingredients. In fact, if you look at in terms of the Western snacks, there's hardly any entry barrier. You can get the same machine that is available, you can get the same raw material, and you can have the same production. Two different companies making, let's say, one product from the same machine can be very, very similar. But in terms of ethnic snacks, it is all about having ethnic, and it is whether it's a sweet or snacks, it's about having a particular recipe, particular taste that your customers love. They've been buying it for a long, long time. And in terms of competition, if you look at 1.5 lakh crore worth of industry estimate, these are guess estimates given it's such a unorganized industry. If you go to rural India, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, it will be surprising, for somebody to see that how things are changing in terms of consumption pattern. It is nothing to point about a particular company, but I'm talking more about how consumption patterns are changing. Two very different business and cannot be compared.
Okay, but what about competition from regional brands? Sachin, because this is a category where there are very strong local regional brands and they have the distribution might in their territories. And India is a market where tastes change like with every state.
That is right. I think probably that, when you say regional taste, I think that is what sort of sets apart these businesses. When you talk about Western snacks, very difficult to copy paste formula. These are very specific, regional, very unique taste with backed by unique recipes developed over a period, and there's a particular set of customers who are sort of continuing to buy. And when you talk about the competition, my guess is the customer sets are very different. It's a very vast industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, multi-taste, multi-product. sort of multi-recipes industry. So very difficult to generalize. But if you ask me to put it, in one line, I would probably suggest, being regional is actually a strength versus a weakness. You own a particular market and you continue to penetrate that, where there is a humongous fan following of your brand. I think it's a good thing to have.
All right. Can you tell us some insights, anecdotal, information on how the idea of the IPOs was generated and what it took to get it in the market?
See, we invested into this company in 2014. This was the first tranche of private equity that the company took. And for any company which actually, gets into this, eventually their dream will be to do a listing, provide an exit route to the investors, and eventually also unlock value, for the company. And this has been no different.
For the Bhujia and Mithai Kings, so far on top of the snacking curve, this may be the time they will have to pivot to healthier offerings or appear to get cracking on regional competition, hire top-tier talent, and maybe need to deal with consolidation. There's also a compelling need to tap global markets, bridge the gap between Western and Indian snacks, and appeal to younger consumers. Richly valued, but possible deeper issues around governance and processes. Warding off competition from globally backed snack majors on one hand and very strongly entrenched local players on the other. It's a space surely at inflection point. That's all for now. I'm your host Ratna Bhushan, and you've been listening to From Bikaner to BSE, Snacking Away on the Morning Brief. We're signing off now and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. This episode was produced by Sumit Pandey, sound design Rajas Naik, executive producers Anupriya Bahadur, Anirban Chaudhary and Arijit Barman. Do share this episode if you liked it. Listen to new episodes of The Morning Brief every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on all your favorite listening platforms: Amazon Music, Gaana.com, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, the Economic Times website, and of course, our very own audio platform, ET Play. Also, tune in to the latest podcast from ET, Business of Sports, where we decode all about sports as a business. Tune in every Wednesday for fresh episodes. Credits and disclaimers are in the description. Any reference to invest into the industry or company is independent of this discussion.